Hello, hello. Good afternoon. Good evening. How we doing today, everyone? What is going on right now? How are you enjoying the Champions League games? I'm just kind of keeping up on the Madrid one on the side because I found that one to be the most compelling. But there's some good games this afternoon. I watched the Arsenal snooze fest earlier, but they did get the business done. It looks like Carvajal has just been sent off for a red from Madrid, which is crazy. But how you doing, guys? How are you doing on this day? Man, there's been a lot of drama, a lot of noise, a lot of crap, a lot of yap that's been going on, hasn't there? I mean, more than usual, to be quite honest. More than usual. It's better since we don't have to watch United. That's good. I'm glad you feel that way. I wish we had more games. I wish they were coming a little bit thicker and faster, to be honest, because I think it would turn down a lot of the. I think it would play down a lot of the I don't know, the nonsense that's going on, and at least to let us move on to the next game. And look, the reality of it is we'll kind of get back to this. We win games or we lose games. If we start winning, everything's good. If we keep losing, everything's bad. In the meantime, the more time in between just allows for you to get more and more riled up and more clicks and more articles and more crap, coming up every day. No, it's all good, Lex. No smoke without fire. That's where you're wrong, bucko. No, look, here's the thing about this whole stuff about, no smoke without fire and all of that, okay, King Ragnar, just to tell you the truth about it, because I appreciate the perspective. I appreciate the thought that you have on this. Real Madrid look very vulnerable in transitions. Listen for a sec, by the way. Real Madrid look vulnerable in every single Champions League game they have ever played in, and yet they'll keep winning them. It's just kind of how it is. One thing I hate in this fan base is the personal criticism people based on their opinions. We don't often agree. We all want United to win. It's exhausting. Agreed, 100% on that. But look, the truth of the matter is, on stuff like the stories, if you read, for example, the Daily Mail article, and you actually look at what the article says, there is zero information within that would lead you to believe Ruben Amorim is being sacked. There is no smoke. There's none. Put your glasses on. I can do that. I do have them here. It helped me read. I'll do that for today. I'll see if I can get by it. There is no information in the Daily Mail piece, for example, that actually says Ruben Amorim's in danger of being sacked. In fact, it's the opposite. It literally says they don't want to sack him, and the board see progress despite the results. If you actually read it. When I was talking about yesterday about how things get amplified in the current way of it, the only thing that's in there is saying repeating a few players are unhappy, which you can do whatever the fuck you want with that kind of statements. I hate those things. And I'm not blaming journalists. They're doing their job. They're not making it up, by the way. And that's one of the things where I disagree with some people, because, look, I know how journalists write. I know how people work. And when people go and say, oh, they're just making it up, they're not actually making it up. Where it comes from, how true it is, how many people it is, all of that, I know the truth on that, but they're not actually making it up, which is why I don't like those stories, because here's the problem I have with the stories about players and about how it's presented, okay? this is a media problem in general that I am going to call out, all right? And it gets worse when it's outside of sports. One thing, one little person, one little source, one person saying it, how close are they to the team? How close are they to the players? How really does it feel? Can have something they want to say that's almost indisputable in a way, and then it's presented as if everyone feels that way. And this is something that media do all the time. All right. So it's way worse, and I think it's way more damaging when it's done outside of sports, because sports to me is not that serious. Okay. But you have a Fox or somebody will be like, Americans hate blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, well, what actually is the situation here? It was like they talked to an American who said this, and then they're going to present it as if it's a group opinion, okay? Breaking, Malacia is unhappy at United. Right. Like, literally, it could be Malacia saying some in the dressing room think that, technically he's in a dressing room, think that this, and they think that, and they think this, and they think that, all right? And then it can be presented as if it's everyone. And the purpose and the goal is to have you believe it's everyone, because it's much more dramatic. It's much more, it's much more impactful that way in terms of getting you to, to think about it and all of that. It's something that's going to make you believe it. And it's a part of, like, we all know you love Trump. See, there you go, like that. Like, funny how all these unhappy rumors are payers agent driven. Sure. It doesn't matter who it is. You know what I mean? That's the point. That's what I don't want to get into, because I wouldn't write the story in the first place. I wouldn't write the story in the first place myself, because I don't see things that way. You guys know this, all right? When I tell you things, I'm going to tell you specifics. Or if I won't name a name, I'll say one person. I've done that for the entirety of the time I've done this. When I talked about, like, fights with Ten Hag and things like that in the dressing room, I almost always named names or said this individual thinks this, or this individual. All right. Remember years ago, I gave you the beef between Varane and Ten Hag. I think this was 2 years ago now, almost. I said when he dropped him, that it was, they had a problem between the two of them, and Varane was very unhappy with him. Specific. That's a specific. And it was factually correct. It was specific. That was factually correct. That was specific. That is a truth, in there. And that came out in the wash later on. It doesn't always come out, but that's how I'm going to say things. I don't put much value on those stories, but that doesn't mean I like them. And it doesn't mean they're made up either. It just means who's actually saying it, where, and how, and how's it coming from. I try to be much more specific than that, because otherwise it's too easy to catch people out on stuff. By the way, as you're filing in, please do make sure to like and all of that. Varane turned 100% French, exactly. Please do make sure to like the stream and video and all that. It really does help. Very, very much it does. Okay. But yeah, the reality here with it makes us the perfect targets. And so when you say there's no smoke without fire, well, what is the actual smoke that's going on here, right? There's none. Ahmad's post is interesting. No, it's not. Form is temporary, class is permanent. He's talking about himself and probably the team to a degree. But he's mostly probably talking about himself, considering he posted a self-deprecating picture of him completely missing a bicycle kick. People are going to read into that way too much. And it's like, that's the type of thing. That's not smoke. That's not smoke, okay? They're smoky. That's not smoke. Okay. But yeah, this is the question. Okay. This is what we're talking about here. If you look at the articles themselves, okay, if you mean, I mean, in terms of the BS. Oh, sure, fair enough. If that's what you mean, then fair enough. Like, but if you look at the articles themselves and the things that are actually being written when you get down and dirty with it, nobody. Well, not I shouldn't say nobody because there's a few people who've said some things, but that's almost neither here nor there. The well-sourced articles and pieces have specifically stated that he's not under threat at the moment, and amusingly, they're saying the opposite. They're saying they back him. You guys remember, I don't BS you on this stuff. During the international break, I told you they said that there was progress. Their feeling was that there was progress. Their feeling was that we were losing out to silly things and all of that. Look, I don't want to do the whole stats thing. I'm not even talking about my opinion right now. I'm telling you the truth, okay? Here's the truth. Look at, this is an article, went a little under the radar. I guess maybe it didn't get aggregated. Maybe it did. But this is from Ducker at the Telegraph. Obviously, one of the best sources. Look at the headline. Manchester United back at Ruben Amorim's data shows improvement. So one can say, oh, it's the dreaded public backing. Fine, if you say that. But I don't think people know what that actually means. Ten Hag was... people. This is where people do pattern recognition. And they don't get it, all right? I'm just telling you this. Not in
United briefed journos they're happy with their 3 GKS via data before buying Lanmans. United can't fire Amorim after 5 games BT they can next break.
Right, Caden, but here's the difference, right? I agree with you on that. Here's the difference. They made an offer for Emi Martinez earlier. They were obviously lying. That was an obvious lie because they had already acted on that to try and buy Emi Martinez before, right? But point being, they share the manager's view that the club's worst start to a Premier League has masked improvements on the team, which is a bit of a funny line to me, okay? And then you go and they say, these are what we're looking at. Total shots, shots on targets, all of this stuff. Expected goals, open play, expected goals, touches, blah, blah, blah. Stats. These are all, frankly, they are all actually pretty good. The stats themselves are, quite honestly, very good in that respect, but they're not translating into wins. The point being, when they're looking at evaluating data, okay, no, they really didn't say they were backing Ten Hag. You should go back and read it, okay? When you look at the data, listen, when you look at the data on it, let's say you're sitting here trying to evaluate things from the inside. You can look very basically and say, yeah, we're not winning games and all of that, okay? They're obviously going to look at a lot more than that, okay? They're obviously going to look at a lot more than that. They have to look at a lot more than that because even if it's not working, you have to know why it's not working before you sack someone. And I will say this again many times, what people are claiming isn't working, I think they're bluntly and absolutely wrong on. I think they're missing what isn't working. Maybe to a degree, but not totally. I'll give you the example. If you watch the tactics video earlier, right? If you watch that game or watch that tactics video again earlier, you will see that Ruben Amorim is making mistakes. Ruben Amorim is absolutely making mistakes. Would you say relegated teams have decent data? Absolutely not. No. That's the thing, that people are saying, hold on a sec here, right? I'm just going to point something. You know what? Let's do a small exercise, okay? Let's do a small exercise that I would actually find interesting because I've never actually looked at this.
By the people who thought players like Ugarte were worth huge
No, it's
money.
being evaluated by the people who thought Brian Mbeumo is good and Yoro is good and Cunha is good, and they're absolutely right. All right, let's look at the data, okay? Because this is a really interesting point. Okay, let's look at the data. Okay, Yeah, let's actually look, because this is really interesting. Okay, this is really interesting because people do these big swings, right? Data and stats can mean way too much, and data and stats, people try to throw them out and say they mean nothing. But let's look for ourselves. Last season, all right, the 3 teams in the bottom of XG all got relegated. Okay, that's one data point. This is pretty good as to what would you call it, a correlation. It's just one data point. All right, the teams who finished first through fourth all had first through fourth most expected goals. Okay, that's the data. That's what the data says versus the table. Look, this is their ending league position. It's sorted by XG. That's just one season. That's just one data point. I've never actually looked at this. So I am curious to see, is there a strong correlation between expected goals and data? Okay, expected goals. All right, so third place, first, 7. So we get a little variance, but 3, 1, 7, 2. Let's look at the bottom, 18, 19, 20. Okay, it's 2 years in a row. And then you look above it, 15, 17. All right, fair enough, 2 years in a row. Let's go again. All right, so here's an outlier. Wolves got relegated. No. Wolves had the lowest expected goals and got 13th that season. This is the closest we have to an outlier.
Call me delusional, but we actually play decent against City.
So the teams that got relegated
didn't cause them. We did. We're
what was the highest number here?
Players need time.
There it is. Okay. So the highest finisher was when Leicester got relegated with that in terms of expected goals, right? No, people, you can relax. No, you shut up. If you're going to say respectfully stop, just go somewhere else and watch. It's my fucking video. Okay? Somebody asked this question. That's why I'm answering. Somebody asked this question. Thank you, Angie. Appreciate that. I actually kind of agree with you, but I think there's some things we did completely wrong. The point is, you don't actually just throw out all data when you're looking at something. And this is where people go so fucking dramatic. Okay?
Sir Alex spoiled us.
No, it is wild. I'll say shut up again. People. Someone tells me how to run my own video. Shut up. Go somewhere else. There's plenty of YouTube channels you can watch. Go watch someone else. It's my fucking channel. Even if he goes, who replaces him 4 games in? Sir Alex spoiled us as fans, patience, people. Fair enough. Point being is that if you can go in both directions. You can claim that, throw out all the data, and yeah, there's a point where that is totally true, right? You can't just keep not winning. You can't just keep not getting starts. There's no doubt about that, right? For me, my question was around aligning data to results. Exactly, right? Tell more people to shut up. Exactly. To me, it's like they do have to align at a certain point, right? Because it's not always going to align. And when it doesn't align, obviously you have a different problem. But to suggest that data has absolutely no use is just as stupid as suggesting that data is everything and results are nothing, right? Those are both just as silly, right? Data is often how you measure like long-term performance. You have to use data. In terms of the other side of it, you have to see results at the same time. So the point is that you do have to use both. The data suggests United are getting a lot better. There's things I see with my eyes that suggest certain areas are improving, and there's things that I see with my eyes that says things are definitely not, because we're also not winning games, you know? Yeah, you're right about that one, Simon, on Shaw. So we only created XG against City once they sat back. That's not really true. What happened to free speech? Well, you're not in the U.S., half of you, so you don't have the same amendment rights as me. No, people have said data has zero use. That's where people have gone with it. If the data doesn't align, then maybe the manager. Right? Okay. Good question.
Judgment on the direction it's going to go this season.
I say 10 games.
I say 10 games.
Well, I think better than that. I think earlier than that. I think sooner than that. Right? I think that the next 3 games are vital to this. I think you have to get 6 points from the next 3 games, because here's the reality on results, okay? This is like, let's just talk results for a minute. If we're talking purely results, losing to City and Arsenal don't matter. You're expected to lose to City and Arsenal. So when you make it a pure results argument, then you've lost in that way also. We're not expected to beat Arsenal and City from a results perspective. We should be losing to them. They are ahead of us. They are 2 of the 3 best teams in the Premier League. We are definitely not. So if you're only going to look at results, those are like the games you're looking at are probably Fulham and Burnley. And you're saying, all right, those are teams we should beat. We beat one, we drew to the other. When I look at the next 3 games, I look at Chelsea, I look at Brentford, and I look at Sunderland. And I say, yeah, we should be beating those teams. Maybe not Chelsea. Chelsea, I would take a draw at home. We shouldn't lose, though, at home. We shouldn't lose at home. But we should beat Sunderland and Brentford. Almost inexcusably, we should be beating them. If we're talking about results and looking at where we should be able to go, those are games we have to win. Those are the games where you go, if you lose those, then you're like, we're fucked. We're fucked. I'm talking about the Premier League right now. Then we're fucked. You know what I mean? That's how I see it. That's how I see it. And I think that's how they'll see it as well from a results perspective. And I think that's the sensible way to see it. If we go and play Liverpool at Anfield, are we supposed to beat them? And because we don't beat them, then you have to sack the manager? Because that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make any sense. We have to win the games we're supposed to win. And I judge those a lot more than the other ones. Serious question, what if we get slapped by Chelsea? That would be a problem. Because we absolutely should not get slapped by Chelsea at home. We absolutely should not get slapped by Chelsea at home. We haven't lost to Chelsea at home in 10 years, and they're not that good. They drew to Brentford. They're not City. And as much as people keep wanting to hype up City or hype up Chelsea, they haven't been that good. They haven't actually done anything yet. You're talking about the guys who've won, 6 of the last 7 titles or 5 of the last 6 titles or anything like that? Right, we beat City last season and finished 15th. The result means nothing, but he has to turn around fast.
This result means nothing, but he has to turn it around fast.
I don't know if it's going to read this out, Alfred.
Give me your honest opinion. If United don't win any of the next 3 matches, are they a relegation candidate with a 38-game Amorim season?
Yeah, if we didn't win any of the next 3 matches, then you have to make a change at the break. I'm not stupid. I'm not stupid. I'm not. Rivalry and turning up against big teams do count for something. They do. They do. I said before the game 2 things, right? I said we were both simultaneously super shit, but also somehow expected to beat City, you know? Here, I'll make it so you actually can't talk in my channel. How about that?
Can we at least
That's what it looks like when you actually can't talk on my channel. Can we win at least 5 for that guy to cut his hair? That would be nice, wouldn't it? It'd be good to help the guy out a little bit. But it's like, that's how I see it. It's like, but that's how they see it too. Look, the only truth here is this, in terms of the substance about whether Ruben Amorim will be sacked or whether Ruben Amorim will leave or something like that. Okay? If the goal this season is to get back into Europe, if our league form is like, there's an average you need. Let's take a look at it. Here, this is a good question, okay? Like, if you want to just do results and points, cool. Let's do that for a moment, because I'm quite curious. This isn't stats. Okay, we're talking about results and points, winning games. That's all that matters, right? Let's say the goal is to get back into Europe. So would you guys agree? 7th? I think that their standard is probably 7th because that's probably going to get Europa. So last year, the team, the 7th and 6th, 65 points or something like that. 65, 66 points, like that, by the way. That's what we were at. I'm not talking about Champions League, but let's say we were getting 6th or 7th. Okay, 66, 65 points. It was 65 for 7th, 66 for 6th. So let's say it's in that range. That's the amount of points we need. So that is 66 divided by 38, 1.73 points per game. 1.7 points per game is the average, okay? So let's say we go to, let's say we go to, okay, so when we're 7 games in, what's 1.75? Okay? 1.7 rather. All right, so it's 12 points. All right. So if we were on pace, by 7 games in, we would have 12 points. So that would require us to get 8. So we'd have to win all 3 games to get to that. And we'd be slightly above the range, right? If we win 6 points, we're on 10 after 7 when we should be on between 11 and 12. That's not sackable from a result standpoint. If we're on 11 points, it's even better. Then you go into the next break. I think you get 4 more games or something like that. Okay. Then you're on 11 games or something by the next international break. What do you need to be at? 11 times 1.7. All right. That's 18 points. Okay. So so you need 14 points over the next, to be on pace. You're going to need 14 points over the next 7 games. So you need to get kind of a 2 points per game. So what do you need? You need 4 wins. You need 4 wins, basically, out of the next 7. 4 wins and a draw or something like that to be about on pace. That's the standard. That's how I see it. That's what we need to do. That's what I'm judging it on. It's been 4 games, though. After 4 games, we're like, I don't know, what is that? We're 3 points off the pace. Like we're 1 game off. It's not like results-wise that's a sackable range yet. So the only truth in all of this is that the goal is to get back in Europe from a results standpoint. The goal is to get back in Europe to get to a results standpoint. If it's looking like we cannot keep up that pace, the further we go, then the more pressure is going to be under. The next 3 games are important. Very important. If we get 6 points, we're fine. If we get 7 points, we're good. If we get 0 to 3, it's bad. And he's going to be under pressure because you just have to be. If we go into the next break and we're not close to it, then we just lose more. Then it's in trouble. So those are the things that have to happen. You know what I mean? That's the way that it looks like. A lot of it is bullshit. What they're looking at right now is saying, hey, we think we've been performing well, but we cannot win games. Keep up the good performances. Keep up those, but the results have to catch up soon. Okay? If they don't catch up soon, then the good performances don't matter because the further the season goes along, the more those results and points are meaningful and the further that gap gets. And all of that. So that's the truth of it. The rest of it is clickbait. The rest of it is absolutely nonsensical. The rest of it has absolutely no truth in it at all. You know, it just has none. It just has none. According to you, is Amorim the right guy to guide us for the next 3 years? No, he hasn't proved he's the right guy for the next 3 years. He hasn't. But we haven't been performing well. I mean, I disagree. We were the better side against Arsenal. We were the better side against Fulham, and we were the better side against Burnley. That's all. We just we got to score goals and we can't. And there's issues. My issue with Amorim is that his lineups are bad and not based on merit. I agree with you. That's when I did the breakdown of City. The biggest problem is for me the selection issues. The biggest problem for me is the selection issues, for sure. We were not poor against Burnley. I just can't agree with that. Like, I'm just not going to agree with that. We were not poor against Burnley. We produced an enormous amount of chances back to back to back to back to back. That game could have been 3-4-0 in the first half. It easily could have been. People just, like I said, I think people will always look at one game. People will always look at the game through the lens of what just happened for the most part. So we lose to City, and that means Burnley was bad, and Fulham was bad, and Arsenal was bad. We win against Burnley, and it all looks good, but then we lose to City, and it's all bad. And it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Conceding 2 goals doesn't make it a bad performance.
So far, performance at OT has been saved.
Yeah, that I think is
Chelsea might be hard to recover from.
Yep.
Next 3 games are make or break.
Yep. So I agree with you on that, Sub. The fact that at Chelsea we cannot get slapped. We cannot get slapped by Chelsea, right? We just can't. If we get slapped at home, I think that's the type of thing that really turns people and would get the wheels in motion. We cannot have a really bad game at home. We cannot. You just can't. And the thing about when I talk about a good performance is this is the way I see it. When people judge United, they judge United off the basis of were they the better team for 90 minutes? People consider that for a game to be good for us, we have to be the better team for 90 minutes. No, a good performance means you're better for the majority of the game compared to the other team. The margins are not that huge, especially where we are today. You have to be better than the opposition longer than they're better than you. That's what a good performance looks like, because that's what it takes to win. You don't have to dominate 90 minutes. You have to be better for enough of the game to win. And in general, that's a majority. I mean, when you look at possession, right? It's not like teams go in and it's like, oh, it's bad if you have 90 minutes, if you don't have 80% possession. A lot of the best teams have 55% possession. That means they spent 45% of the game defending without the ball.
Is there a Giggs O'Shea-like makeshift midfield that could get us by until January?
A Giggs O'Shea-like midfield that could get us by until January. All right, so I saw an article today saying about Lissandro tapping in there, and I'm just telling you that that's not true. The problem that you have, and I know this directly, the worry within the club about Lissandro, remember I told you it wasn't going to be September, it was going to be later in October, and that's kind of been confirmed. It's become later and later because of certain concerns. The problem you have in a knee, I'm not a doctor, there may be doctors in here, but in my understanding is that the cruciatus ligaments on the outside, on the ACL, don't stop you from running forward. They stop you from going sideways. And they reduce your stability and balance when going side to side and your explosiveness when going side to side. And very often you never get side to side explosiveness back. Lissandro Martinez is coming off the injury that would make him the worst possible candidate for our midfield, okay? Because it's a lot of side to side. You need to have side to side lateral explosive movement, not front and back. He's not particularly fast front and back, but you need side to side. That's why Rodri hasn't been the same. Exactly. It is a terrible injury to have when you need to be doing lateral movements. You can go straight, but you can't go side to side. And that is not in the plans right now. Okay? He would have to prove an enormous, unbelievable level of fitness. And then you're saying, hey, we're going to stress you out, your knee out even more than we should by asking you to do the worst possible thing you can do for your knee, which is to be a lateral runner. Yeah, and there's that
wants
too, right?
Olympians in his
You're not wrong
midfield
about
and
that,
people
Alfred. Like,
think
it's a crazy
Martinez is a
suggestion.
solution.
It should, as Martinez as the solution. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's also had other injuries, and I really like Lissandro, but yeah, that suggestion is wacky. Is wacky to me. That's one that's like, it just makes no sense. You know what's really funny though? You know what does crack me up? For years, people used to joke about putting Lindelof in DM, and then Emery did it at the weekend. Did you guys see that? Did you guys see that? Emery actually put Lindelof in the midfield at the weekend. Some people have been asking for that for so long and wondering why we can't do it. I didn't actually watch enough of the game or pay close enough attention to see how it went, but I know that I saw Lindelof go into the midfield, and that is actually absolutely hilarious to me. I have no idea if it worked. I mean, they still haven't scored a goal, so I would assume no, right? It's been a rough start for Unai. You know what I mean? It has. It's been rough. Villa, what's going on? What am I talking about? Anyway, so yeah, that's it. All right. Yeah, the pace of the game is very, very different. They didn't win either. Yeah. So anyway, that's the truth of the matter. This thing, like this 3 games aspect, it's a little bit of creative license. You know what I'm saying? There's some creative license in this idea that they have in the Carabao Cup. Oh, they're out of the Carabao. Did they just get knocked out? Oh my God. What a disaster. I just did not realize that there was even a Carabao Cup game tonight. At all. Anyway, Villa out on pens. Wow. Against Brentford. It was a rough start for Unai Emery. So regardless of that, this 3 games thing, like I said, a bit of clickbait, a little bit of creative license. Because look, the truth of the matter is, if we lose 3 games, yeah, he's in danger of getting sacked. I mean, duh. Like that is true, and also like blatantly obvious, certain, and guaranteed. You can't go 4 points in 7 games. Last year, by the way, let me just say this. Last year, when Ten Hag got... last year, we were at 8 points in 7 games.
The team is a drunk that can't function without Bruno. We just need to detox from him. But will be worse for some games.
Yeah, I agree with you. Last year, they beat Sheffield Wednesday. I agree with you. We do need to detox and be able to play without him and become more of a team. But last year, we were at 8 points on 7 games. And I remember during this upcoming international break, that was when they had a meeting about Ruben Amorim. And the truth is, Ruben Amorim, well, yeah, technically about Ruben Amorim. The truth is, during that meeting, they did decide to start looking at replacements for Erik Ten Hag, and then they gave him the 3 more games, essentially. And then they pulled the trigger, and then they went to Ruben Amorim after that. Dallo sacrificed Ten Hag against West Ham. He kind of did. But we had 8 points in 7 games. We cannot be on 8 points in 7 games. But do bear in mind for a minute, okay? They had that meeting about him, a manager they already wanted to sack, that they already didn't like, that they weren't backing, and that had been at the club more than 2 seasons. I'm not saying that the standard is lower for Ruben, but they're probably going to give him a longer leash. That being said, if they have spent money and would expect improvement, he must have more points. He must have more points than 8. We can't be on 8. Because what would 8 mean? 8 would mean 1 win, 1 draw, 1 loss. we can't get only 4 points from these next 3 games. We have to get at least 6. That's what has to be done. We have to get at least 6. So that's really what will determine it in that respect. So, yeah, 3 games, fine. Because if you lose them all, obviously, you're in trouble. You do need to win some points. But that's going to be true moving forward the rest of the season. The only time the pressure this season is going to end in terms of like where we're at is if we comfortably are getting up to like, in the top 5 to 7 and floating around that range. But yeah, for me, 6 points minimum, 6 more points minimum, 7 points would be great because I would like us to not lose to Chelsea. But we have to win 2 games of these 3. We have to. We just fucking have to. We should. Brentford aren't particularly good in my opinion still. Sunderland, come on, man. Like we've beaten relegation teams. We have to be able to beat them. Look, every game is tough in the Premier League. But we can't go and call every game tough. You know what I mean? Sunderland and Brentford are not tough games. They're tough because every game in the Premier League is tough. They're not tough because those are the games we have to win. Those are the games we're going to be expected to win. Those are the games that we have to win. Those are the games that we have to get results in. So that's what's going to matter. I'm not saying we can't beat Chelsea at home. I think we can. I think we should. And we definitely, in my opinion, cannot lose. Okay? That is for sure. It is winnable, and we're at home. We cannot lose that. We cannot get slapped by Chelsea. So I'm in that as well. But that's my standard. Look, I've told people very, very much. I've told people for a long time where I stand on this. My standard for this season in terms of results was a lot higher than others. But if your standard was we have to get into the top 8 or 9, you couldn't be panicking like this after 4 games. That doesn't make any sense. To me, that part doesn't add up. If you're thinking, well, top 8, then you shouldn't be panicking. I mean, we're how many points off top 8? Not that it matters. We're 2 points off the top 8. It's less than a game. So like, you shouldn't be throwing a fit and being already manager out if you're thinking 8th. You know what I mean? Because we're 1 win off of 8th, less than 1 win off of 8th. It's not that big of a deal in that respect. My standard is actually higher. That's why I think we should be aiming higher. We need to be getting more than that. We need to be getting more than that. But yeah, that's what the truth of the 3 games is, and that's what the not truth of the 3 games is. For those of you who watched the tactical video this morning, and then I do want to talk about 3 targets because they relate to this discussion as well that we're about to have. For those of you who watched the tactical video this morning or this afternoon, I really do recommend it once again because at least if you don't agree with me, you can see what I'm saying and see if you think I'm nuts or not. Because everybody who watches it so far has pretty much come to the same conclusion as I have. And what I tend to find is a lot of people who say, nope. They don't actually watch. They don't actually look. They've made their mind up and they're not, they've made their mind up and they're not willing to change it. And that's fine. You're entitled to that. But just watch it. You know what I mean? If you have a different opinion, just watch it. You know what I'm saying? At least be willing to see what else you might see in terms of what's going wrong, But this is a point I want to discuss, and then we'll look at some like recruitment stuff because it ties into this. So yesterday I had a really interesting conversation because we were talking about this thing with Patrick Dorgu, right? We were talking about Patrick Dorgu and I was saying how, I saw like this tweet, whoever it is, maybe I don't even remember who it is, but it was like huge, you know what I mean? About how we're asking Patrick Dorgu to be Ryan Giggs. And I was going like, at first I was like, oh, that's annoying. Like what a stupid thing to say. And then I thought about it and I was like, they're right. They're actually right. The system as it is, what it is doing is asking Patrick Dorgu to be a creative force. And we won titles because we had top players in all of these positions. We won titles because we had guys like Evra. We won titles because we had guys like Irwin. We won titles because we had guys like Beckham. We won titles because we had guys like Giggs. We won titles largely with some of the best wide players around for a long time. But that's what it takes to win titles. Liverpool won titles with Robertson and Trent, who are performing as to the highest level. PSG just won the Champions League with Hakimi. You know, Inter made it far with DeMarco. Like, hold on a second. Every good team, every top player, every top team has guys in those positions that are really good. Like, really good. We don't at the moment. So we can say, validly, one can say, hey, we can validly say, look, we don't have that right now. So then you have two choices to make. Do you say, all right, well then we're going to negate a tactical advantage that we are gaining, which is getting the ball to our fullbacks? We don't have it right now. Or do we persist and intend for Dorgu to get better and then buy someone? Because you know what Man City would do under Pep? If he had a tactical plan and he didn't have the players to execute it, you know what he would do in the general scheme of things? He would just buy another player. They've done it so many times. I mean, they bought Nico Gonzalez, in January, and they sold him by summer. They would just buy another player. They just buy another player. The problem we have is, of course, as a part of rebuilding the team, this is where this specific criticism, let's say, this specific problem is one where this is the part people are not patient in a rebuild, and that people are not willing to wait in a rebuild, okay? Because that's kind of the problem you're going to deal with in a rebuild, is that you don't have good enough players yet for what you're trying to do. And you need them to develop and become a part of that in the future. I think Dorgu has the tools to potentially get there, and he's an incredible athlete, and he's obviously learning more of the attacking game, right? His athleticism allows him to find and get into those spaces a lot. But what I do completely protest is, and Luciano, I take your comment, but I want you to look at something. Ahmad is the opposite wing back. He gets more touches than Dorgu. In most of the videos that I showed, Ahmad is as open as Dorgu. Okay? So it's not they're allowing Dorgu the ball, because Ahmad is getting more touches than him. These are the right players to get these touches. We're not everything is not falling to Dorgu. That's incorrect. Ahmad and Mbumo, again, if you watch the tactical video, Ahmad and Mbumo have got themselves into better positions in that game than Dorgu did on more than one occasion to go and score. But yeah, we need Dorgu to produce because he's one of 6 forwards. Left wing back, left 10, striker, right 10, right wing back, and the 8. And here's the other aspect. Okay? He had the most touches in the opponent box. Exactly. That's fine. That's okay. But I'm talking about on the season as a whole. Like I say, people look through recency bias. That was just one game. That was just one game. That's what I'm saying is recency bias. He doesn't have more touches than them. No, they weren't loading up on the right, though. The problem we had on the right in that game is that Mazraoui was at wingback, and that's a really, really poor selection. Mazraoui was at wingback. He was so slow to overlap. So slow to overlap, okay? He was unbelievably slow to overlap. He took so long to get forward, okay, that it did not allow us to gain our tactical advantage that we usually have on that side. Dorgu was bombing down that side. So the only reason it was imbalanced against City is because it's Mazraoui. That's a major selection issue. It happens every time he picks Mazraoui. We have this imbalance. We have this problem. We lose one of the biggest tactical advantages we could gain. The only upside, maybe not only, but the upside that I have seen time and time again with this system is it leaves the wingbacks in spaces where they end up unmarked, running free. You don't get that kind of space for a lot of players in the Premier League, but we're getting it with the wingbacks. By putting Mazraoui there instead of Ahmad, we're self-nullifying the advantage we could gain. And that is a huge stinker from Ruben Amorim, unfortunately. It is huge. There's a Sporting fan in my comments who basically he said the same thing, essentially, just from all of that. And he basically pointed out that exact same thing. And it's true. And that's a huge mistake Amorim is making. That is silly. It's the main advantage we get, and we're nullifying it, okay? But I also want to point out there's this narrative as well that Bruno is being kept so far away from goal, he's not getting touches. That's just not true. He's got more touches in the attacking third than Cunha and Mount. He has more than Marmoush per 90 at City. You know what I mean? He's got a lot of touches in the attacking third. In fact, when you compare him to other years, he's at like 24 this season. Most years, he's between 26 and 29. So, excuse me if on the ball, he's getting two fewer touches in the attacking third. You know what I mean? He's not being completely nullified from contributing to the attack at all. Like literally at all. He's just there. So that part is not an issue. But the fact of the matter is that we need more out of these guys. Ahmad has gotten the ball in dangerous areas a lot this season, and he's not been good. He was good against Burnley and not good in other positions. Mbeumo needs to do more as well. He was good against Burnley. He wasn't so good in the other games, and he was poor against City again, okay? Dorgu has been poor in pretty much every single game. In terms of on the ball, he's been poor. Bruno, his on the ball has been way less bad than his off the ball. Cunha and Mount, I think, have been good on the ball, but we need to get them back into the game. So, yeah, we just need we need to improve in a lot of ways, but it's not like every chance is falling to Dorgu. To build a good team, we need a lot more from these guys. We do need them to produce. We do need Dorgu to be better than he is. Because again, then your option becomes, what do I do? If you're saying, hey, it's falling to Dorgu and he's not good enough and it's not working, okay, well, what's the alternative? What's your solution? Is Dorgu good enough in chance creation for a back four? Every single team in football utilizes their fullbacks. Every good team in football utilizes their fullbacks to attack. Look at the quality of fullbacks in football over the years, right? Yeah, correct, Luciano. It shows that attacking players are better in these areas than Dorgu because he's creating less with a lot of touches. Correct. Absolutely correct. You're totally right on that. He is not creating, he is much less efficient than Mbumo, Ahmad, and Bruno, and Cunha, and Mount at creating chances. But what's the alternative here? The alternative is to look at it and say, we're going to dictate the team now because Dorgu can't cross. And I'm not trying to be insulting to him because he is a young player that I think has a lot of room to grow. And he plays like every minute a lot of the times and all of that, right? Are you saying now, okay, now we're going to, first it was Bruno, then it's this, then it's this. You see how this slope gets really, really steep and really, really slippery very, very quickly, which is it becomes, first it was make the system work for Bruno. Then it was make the system work for Dorgu. Why? All you're doing is lowering the bar lower and lower and lower until you reach the lowest common denominator. Because when you dictate your system to the players, you are reaching for the lowest common denominator. And that's as high as you can go. Now, who does that work for? What teams are capable of doing that? Real Madrid. Because the lowest common denominator is insane. The lowest common denominator is on another planet. It's unbelievable. Right? They have such a strong squad that we're just going to build the squad and go into it. In a back four, you aren't relying on your fullbacks to create. That's not true. That's not true. Every good team in football uses their fullbacks to create. If you go back to the years that we were the most successful, you will find our fullbacks in the highest chance creation numbers very often. You will find that's under Ollie, Luke Shaw, and I think even under Ten Hag's first season, Luke Shaw was one of our most creative players. He was among the top in terms of chances created. Back four for Liverpool, so were their fullbacks. The only teams that don't really use fullbacks' creativity are those who invert them into the midfield. That's all. Back five, you're more reliant on than back four, of course. But you see, again, we're tail wagging the dog. Move to a back four so that we can put Dorgu in a back four so his weaknesses are more covered up, and then it's still not going to work. And then you're just shifting the creative burden that you're passing off there to elsewhere. Who's the creative player that we can put on the pitch that's going to change that right now, right? Who's the creative player that we're going to add in place of that third center back that's going to fix that, that's going to balance it? Who's this creator that's going to give us more creativity? Because you're actually ending up with fewer attackers. So the answer is a midfielder. So who's the midfielder we could put on that's going to create a bunch more chances instead of Dorgu? There is none. Sorry to say. We don't have that player, right? So, for example, Pep doesn't use his fullbacks to create. Why? Look at his midfield. Look at who he puts in the midfield, right? His fullbacks were defenders. You all agree? Like, they were pretty much pure defenders against us. Kusanov and Nico O'Reilly, right? They were purely defenders. Would you agree with that? In that game they played against us, his fullbacks were just defenders, nothing else. I think pretty much everybody would agree with that, right? And Pep gets away with that because he has Foden and Reindeers in the midfield. That's 5 creative players. His 3 forwards and 2 creative mids. And he's done that for his whole career, right? Gundogan and Bruno, KDB. He's always done it. He's been playing center backs in his back four for a long time. That's Pep ball, right? Trippier has the highest chance creation for Eddie Howe's Newcastle. So tell me you want Eddie Howe, and then tell me you don't want the fullbacks to create. Because Trippier has been Eddie Howe's main creative outlet the entire time Trippier has been there. Fact. So, no, you cannot get away with this. Most teams utilize their fullbacks to create really well. We have to have a good creative fullback, period, no matter what. We've struggled with it for years, man. So it's not so much about like, all right, this is the only way or anything like that. The point is we shouldn't keep lowering the bar and say, well, we don't have a good fullback, so we got to drop the standard even more. Bruno's already on the pitch. That's not an extra creative player. He's not an extra creative player. Dorgu's an issue. Right now, yeah, to a degree. Look at how many times Dorgu got into attacking positions yesterday. Look at how many times he had the opportunity to put a cross in. Right? He didn't do great at it. But that's fine. He has room to grow. The point is, where do you go from there? No one is saying we don't want attacking football. It's the way it seems dependent. Yes, I agree with you. But what is the answer? What is the answer? The answer is you can say, all right, fine, we're not going to play through the fullbacks. Well, then you literally have to change manager, by the way, which some of you are for. Fine, doesn't matter to me. Then you're saying, or this is why people can't accept the pain of a rebuild. Or you just go get another player. Because you are expected to be relying on players that aren't good enough yet when you're rebuilding a team in certain positions. It's going to happen. Let's take the striker, for example. We can play to a system that suits the striker anymore, and you know what's going to happen? People are going to go, Benjamin Šeško isn't ready. Think about it in other positions, right? Would you be sitting there and going, well, we need to switch to a system that doesn't rely on the striker because Šeško's not ready? No. You have two choices. Let him grow or get another striker on top of that. Those are the choices that you have. The same goes for every position on the pitch. You have that choice, okay? So the decision has to be made, in that respect. Which route are we going? If, the system puts pressure on Luke Shaw, okay? If the system puts pressure on Luke Shaw, do you say, think about it in Luke Shaw in the reverse. Luke Shaw hasn't been good enough, okay? The system puts pressure on Luke Shaw. Are we going to say he's not good enough for the demands of a back three, having to step up and be aggressive and all of that? So we should change system so that we don't have a back three because of Luke Shaw? Seriously? No, of course not. Of course not. That would be ridiculous. But that's a rebuild. This is, for me, like I've said before, that for me, what I see personally, and people are going to disagree, is that, right, Shaw shouldn't be playing. Agreed. Well, it's the same thing for Dorgu. If he's not good enough, he shouldn't be playing. Okay? I'm not, again, this isn't me giving him a hard time because he's young. He's different to Shaw. He's the opposite end of the spectrum there.
Wouldn't he create chances as well, WB?
He probably would, but he seems to just not have the legs for it, Juan. That's the thing. He just doesn't seem to have the legs for it. Okay? I would much prefer him at left wing back than center back. But yeah. I would much prefer that. But that's really the answer to it. We don't need 3 defenders. Pep just played 4 defenders. And look at the numbers, by the way, for example. Pep just played 4 defenders and a defensive midfielder. He just played 4 center backs. 4 center backs. This is where it gets so silly. Like, come on, guys. Like, you're free to have your opinion, but what you're saying is silly. Pep just played a 4 center back system against us. And a defensive midfielder. That's the same number as defenders as we play when we put Mazraoui at wingback instead of Ahmad. It's the same thing. It's the same number of defenders. It doesn't matter if it's in a back four. What's the difference? The players dictate the shape. What you choose dictates the shape. Four back, it's still more defenders, and that's fine. And I think a lot of people would prefer we play that way, using the midfielders as creative players. See ya, Avrad. Thanks for hanging out.
The problem is knowing how much time and who gets to use it. Both players and coach have been poor.
Yeah, agreed, Kamikaze. I don't think it's that easy. O'Reilly isn't a defender? Well, he certainly wasn't an attacker. I mean, he was pinned back the whole game. He was playing at left back as a defender the whole game. He absolutely was. Either way. But no, I mean, this is the problem. This is where we go back and forth on it and see it in different ways. Do you look at the players that we have and change it? And change to suit them? For me, no. For others, maybe you think that that's the case. For me, that's the exact thing I don't want us to do. This formation would be unbelievable with the PSG fullbacks. We don't have that quality. Agreed. Imagine like it's Hakimi and such running down the wing, right? It would be incredible with them. But that's what we should be aiming for, should we not? So the solution is left wing back and center mid in January. Well, that's what leads me to the next part of the discussion, because we were talking about the other day racking up names. And obviously we were talking about Semenyo, but there was another name we were talking about for wing back. But there are three positions, and it's center back, center mid, and wing back. Those are the three positions that have been agreed upon that we need more options in. And this is part of a reason. This is one of the main reasons that we go into it. I can't remember who the other name was that was mentioned. Nusa was a suggestion, perhaps. We considered Nuno Mendes, and then he signed a new contract. We couldn't afford him at the time. But yeah, I mean, there was talk over Nuno Mendes before we went for Dorgu. It was probably Nusa, because Nusa is one we've been looking at for a long time. But I would suggest that we would get more of an attacking option when we go to recruit for this position, that we're going to get a bit more of an attacking option that can play. It was Fofana? Nah, surely it wasn't Fofana. I don't remember talking about Fofana. I mean, I remember talking about Fofana, but not in the same context. Yeah, Mendes was using us for sure, unfortunately. But yeah, getting somebody who's a bit more of an attacker to have them, go a bit deeper and all of that. You know what I mean? That's realistically what we wanted to do. And Nusa and Semenyo would fit that very well. For sure. So these are the positions that are decided upon, and this is why. Fofana was for 10, fair. So, yes, the Fofana, I always mix the Fofana, yeah. Fofana is a winger. Fofana is but a forward. He's not going to be a wing back. The young, I'm mixing, because I was thinking about the other two Fofanas. Fofana's the Lyon player, right? So yeah, he would be in the 10. But this is how these things get decided, is looking at it and saying, if the left wing back's your primary attacking player on the left, you need somebody with much more final third quality than Dorgu. Absolutely. Correct. And this is the aspect of a rebuild that's painful. Sometimes you just don't have that guy. Sometimes you just don't have that guy in the team when you're rebuilding. Sometimes you just don't have the proven player. Sometimes you just don't have the guy who has that quality. Sometimes you just don't have the guy who has that output. Sometimes you just have the young guy while you're rebuilding. Same as we have at striker, in my opinion. I think Šeško is going to have the exact same growing pains, and I'm not going to sit there and say, well, we should not play to the striker then, because Šeško's not playing well, or Šeško's not good enough yet. Because that, to me, isn't the idea. I'll look at it and say, well, cool. If we had a good wing back, a better wing back, or if Dorgu improves, will be great. When Šeško improves, it'll be better. That's how I see it. anyway. That is how I see it. It's the same thing at center back. I don't think we change from a back three because Shaw is shit. I think we just make sure we get good enough center backs to play and give Heaven a shot and things like that, right? That's how I see it. But that's how the recruitment aspect of this should work. Because if we change managers and we end up in a back four, if you look at the principles that are likely to stay the same, the attacking principles, we're not going to be a center back at fullback team. We are going to be a team that uses fullbacks as fullbacks. And we're going to need somebody with creative influence on that left side. So no matter what, we need to recruit somebody who can do something like that. So just keep that in mind, either way, that is the case. But the midfield, the wing back, a wing back, because technically Dorgu could go to the other side too. Technically, you could even try Ahmad on the left and stuff like that. A wing back, midfielder, and a center back will be things that we are looking at, in the future. There have definitely been things that they want to, recruit, and they've decided to recruit. When it comes to results, when it comes to all of that, you know how I am, man. Like it's fine. I'm not even in slightly, and I'm not glossing over the losses and things like that. There's results. I'm not confident right now. I do suggest you watch the tactical video and tell me if you disagree, because when I look at it, I just see the problems a certain way. What gives me hope is I think they're fixable, but it does require someone to fix them. That's up to Ruben Amorim. If he fixes it, cool. And it doesn't require him changing the system. If he can fix it, cool. If he can't, and we don't win games, oh well. Then he goes. You know what I mean? And then fair enough. That's it. I'm not going to sit and claim that we should be endlessly in the cycle. And if someone is saying, hey, we got to sack him today because we're going to waste the whole season, that's not going to happen. But also, like,
Diego Moreira's
who are you
WB
getting right now? That
amazing
is a
1v1
genuine concern at the moment when you're 4 games into the season. Diego Moreira, yeah, I would agree. That is a genuine concern when you're this close to the season. A lot of these names, by the way, forget about it, right? A lot of these names, right? But for example, like I saw, you see some of the names that are out there talking about Southgate again, Pochettino again, things like that again. Well, you're not getting Frank. You're not getting Southgate is a complete no-go. Glasner, if you're asking to change Amorim for Glasner because it's too defensive, good luck, man. Honestly, good luck. If you're asking Raiola to come in, who I really like, by the way, who is a really good manager, who I rate really, really highly, I love it. When we've just had the discussion about how players can't do it, so he should change his system, and you want to bring in Raiola, that is the definition of insanity right there. Because you're saying we've got guys who can't do the job, and we're going to bring in somebody who's going to ask them to not do the job. So if you rate what Raiola is doing, you're instantly going to tell him to come in and compromise. Instantly, you're telling him to come in and compromise. And then why did you hire him? Why did you hire him in the first place? And that's the same point I make with Ruben Amorim. It's easy to look at it when you look at it as from a new manager perspective. If you don't have the players to do what they want and you hire them and ask them to compromise immediately on their principles because you don't have the players to do it, you're screwed. And you don't know if it's going to scale to a top club, but it's like that's the problem. You ask Iraola to come in immediately, you're going to have players can't press the way he wants, players can't run the way he wants, players don't have the energy he wants, they can't win the direct balls the way he wants. So then you're going to say, cool, well, we have to change then. Then what's the point, man? Then what is the point? Why'd you pick that manager? He's a good manager. I like him a lot. But if you're going to get Iraola, you're going to have to do the same things where you're going to say, we don't have the player to do that. We don't have the player in that position who can do what he wants. The same way we've had this discussion for a while on Patrick Dorgu. The same way we've had these discussions on others. You're going to have that exact same discussion about players under Iraola. And then but it's going to be new. It's going to be new and incredible. The issue is, no matter who we bring in, we haven't finished the rebuild. So we're going to have these problems with any manager. So it's less to me about just bring someone in and then suddenly they're going to be great. And it's less to me about, is Amorim good or not? It's the reality of the matter that, manager aside, we don't have a team yet that is actually fit for anybody. So the right answer is just keep going with the rebuild and hope we win some games. Because if you lose too many, you have to do it anyway. But if you believe it's going to dramatically turn things around, it's not. We're going to have the same problems. Maybe they'll win some more games. I hope they do. Right? So if he's really losing and he just can't turn it around, you've got to make a change. But it won't have the impact you think it's going to have right now until we finish our rebuild, which is going to be necessary for any manager that we bring in, no matter what. That's the truth. Chelsea have been going through a rebuild with 3 managers from Potter to Poch to Maresca. They spent like 1.4 billion and they've accomplished nothing. We can't do that. We don't have the money to do what Chelsea have done. They've had 2 of the biggest windows in the history, right? 2 of the biggest windows in the history. And they've still accomplished nothing. I don't give a shit about the Club World Cup. So we don't have the facilities for that, to have 60 players in the squad. You know what I mean? We just can't do that. You can easily rebuild when you have 60 players because the manager can just pick what he wants, and then you're set. The point being is that, do we put blame at the board for not buying enough players this window? And I think that's the crux of the question. Yes, but also no, because we're rebuilding. I knew we weren't going to be finished in one summer. We all knew we weren't going to be finished in one summer because we don't have the financial capabilities to finish it in one summer. We knew we were going to be short one summer. We knew we were going to be short this season. Now, the consequence of that, we can discuss. How far down does that push us? For me, we still have enough to finish in the top 5 or 6, and that's what should be the standard, right? A short means we can't win a title. We're still going to have issues. So we have to finish the rebuild no matter what. That has to happen. If we're losing so many games that we can't go on, you have to change the manager. But there is not a squad for any manager yet because the rebuild is not done. And that is the fact. And that's kind of the point where I'm like, we can just go round and round and round and round on it all day long, and that's fine. It's not depending on the manager. You're missing it. There is no squad for any manager. Any manager is going to come in and instantly have a huge problem in this team, no matter what they do. In some ways, Amorim system kind of nullifies our biggest weakness in terms of the midfield. Because if you put that in a 3, I think people think it's going to be better. I think it'll be worse. We don't have that many players. We have 4 midfielders. We've got 4 midfielders, man. We switched to a 3. we're gonna end up seeing Xerxes in the midfield, Mazraoui in the midfield, Dallo in the midfield to try and solve these problems. And we're gonna struggle to fit in some other guys because Xerxes won't fit in the front line. You know what I mean? So, we're gonna have issues because we're not done with the rebuild. So like I said, and I'm gonna end it here for today's video. I want a minimum of 6 points before the next break. 6 points before the next break. That's what I want. And then after that, I want us to, I don't know how many games there is, but we need to be close to like 15 to 18 points after 10 games. I would say minimum 15 points after 10 games. Probably more. That's my measure of it. We need 2 wins of the next 3, and then we need at least two wins and a draw of the next 4. That's what's necessary. That's what we've got to do. For me, if we don't win 2 games before the next break, that'll be it for me. Because to me, those are games we can't not win. We have to win. We have to win those games. That's all. So, we'll go game by game on that basis, but that's all. To me, it's not a matter of though. Like I'm not super interested in like when is it enough, when is it done, when is it this, when is it that. I don't care, man. We just can't keep losing games as much as we are. Even with the performances will be good, and that's kind of the annoying part about the dialogue. I wish we could talk about it and say, yeah, there are some good things happening in the performance. There are good things in terms of this and that, but we're not winning games at the same time, and that's also bad. Because when I'm talking about stats and I'm talking about us looking good, that doesn't cancel out us not winning games, by the way. Like, I think that's the part that's kind of funny. It's like, just because I say some performances are good or some things are good doesn't mean that it cancels out us not winning. We need to win. They're 2 different discussions. If we look really bad and we're losing, it's even worse than if we look good and we're losing. But they're still 2 different discussions. So that's my measure over the next few games. We need to put some wins on the board to follow this. Okay, that's what I have for today. Thank you guys for watching. Tomorrow there'll be financial results. I'll definitely break that down as well. Please check out the tactics video. Come back, and if you have these strong opinions on, I think this, I think this, I think this, I think this. This is what's wrong. Well, watch it. And then just tell me if you disagree. And give me your thoughts on it. But you have to be willing to look if you want to engage in discussion. Because I'm not willing to engage in debate with people who insist on something without looking. You have to be able to look at it as well and hold that up. Otherwise, there's no point. Because then you've decided something on the basis of pure opinion, no objectivity. Just look and see if you reach a different conclusion than me. Okay? Thank you, guys. Please toss a like on the video on the way out. I appreciate you. Have a good rest of your day. Good night. See you later. Goodbye. Andoni Iraola has all the profiles to play his system at Bournemouth. Absolutely correct, Andrea. Thank you for that. And hopefully you're still here so I can see your comment. You're absolutely correct on that. He needs heavy athletes. He's got heavy athletes at Bournemouth. The roles aren't particularly that like crazy, but they need to be crazy athletes, and that is probably still where we're very weak in terms of the middle, especially is those athletes. Thank you all. Goodbye.